Okay, let's get started. So again, thanks very much for joining. Appreciate your time. And today we're going to talk about how we can reduce time, effort, and costs for PLM evaluations and implementations by using accelerators and PLMgpt, which is a tool that we just recently released, and that basically is a GPT-4 model or based on ChatGPT that we basically taught specifically on PLM topics, PLM information, and those sort of things. So it is specifically tailored to PLM. Of course, it can draw on all the knowledge that is there from ChatGPT itself. But again, we also added quite a bit of PLM specific information and knowledge to the model. So it is a custom GPT model. So with that, having said that, let's get started. So first, I want to do a quick introduction of PLM advisors and myself. Then we look at what tasks do we even have to perform during an evaluation and implementation. Then we'll look at what are specific benefits of using accelerators and PLMgpt, and then we'll look at actually some of those accelerators and PLMgpt, how specifically they can help in facilitating and making these tasks easier. And we'll do a quick summary, and then we'll have some time for questions. All right, with that, let's get started. A quick introduction of myself. I'm Andreas Lindenthal, managing partner of PLM Advisors. I've been in the PLM space for over 25 years now. I have originally worked at UGS Siemens. Before that, even I actually worked at Sulzer in Switzerland as a product development engineer. My background is mechanical engineering. And then after Sulzer, I joined UGS, today Siemens. And after Siemens, I started Metaphor, which was an independent system integrator. After Metaphor, I sold Metaphor actually to Calypso. We merged Metaphor into Calypso, another PLM consulting firm where I worked as a partner. And then I started PLM Advisors in 2009. So we've been in the business for quite a while. I've worked with a number of clients and a small list of clients that I've worked with, and what work I've done, you can see on the bottom of this slide. With that, I want to move on to quickly giving an overview of PLM Advisors. Who are we? We are an unbiased consulting advisory services consulting firm, focusing really on product lifecycle management, new product development, and innovation. We do not only do technology, so we really work on all areas from strategy to practices, processes, and technology. Technology is an important part, but it is definitely not the only part that is important in PLM. And we are strictly vendor and technology neutral. We have no partnerships with any either system integrator or PLM software company. And of course, we do not sell software. We really do this to be completely unbiased and can help really our clients and have no commitment or requirements, I guess, to meet certain goals or whatever of one of our partners. We implement all the major PLM systems and have also implemented many smaller niche PLM systems. And some of the services we offer really start from education awareness about what is PLM to assessments and diagnostics. what are the current processes and technologies, etc. What's the maturity and capability of those? Then, of course, developing strategies and roadmaps for our clients. We develop business cases, ROI calculations, benefits analysis of PLM. Then, of course, software evaluation and selections. We do process design and optimization, project management, recovery. So there we work more on the client side, but also we work with system integrators on managing projects. And then we do, of course, organizational change management and leadership. So these are really kind of the main areas where we provide our services. With that, let's move on and let's take a look at what tasks do we have to perform or complete during an evaluation and implementation. So it's about even, there are, and of course, a number of important tasks. And this is not a conclusive list, obviously, but those are the tasks where we have accelerators available and where PLMgpt can significantly help to help with those tasks, but also reduce the time, the effort, and the cost of performing those tasks. So, of course, it starts with the evaluation, creating a project plan for that, then assessing current practices and processes and tools, defining use cases and requirements. That's always important. But first, of course, we have to have the processes defined, and then we can define the use cases and requirements. Then based on that, we typically will create demo scripts for an evaluation. We want vendors to follow certain demo scripts that obviously they are comparable, the demos are comparable. Then we want to create an RFP, send that out to the vendors, those that we selected to obviously participate in that evaluation. We want to evaluate the RFP responses once we get those back. Then once we have the cost, obviously, then we want to determine what the benefits are and calculate what the possible potential ROI would be of an investment or an implementation of PLM. And then, of course, we want to prepare and present the results and the recommendation to the executives, steering committee, whoever makes the decision. Then once we move to the implementation, again, we obviously need to create a project plan. Then we should, and that's an important part that's often omitted or really not focused on, create an organizational change management or OCM plan. That's really key, very important too. Then, of course, we have to define and optimize the practices and processes that we want to enable with PLM. They typically will look different once we implement that or enable them with PLM. They should look different, will look different than they look without PLM, obviously. Then once again, when we have those practices and processes defined, based on those, we would refine those initial use cases again and the requirements, which we then will need for obviously the design of the solution, but then of course also for the testing and validation potentially. And then of course, having just talked about that during the design, we will create the solution specification. And once we move into the actual configuration, potential customization of the system, then we have to do the testing and the validation of the system. And then, of course, before we go live, we would also have to create the custom training material. So those are kind of on a very high level, some of the most important tasks that we have to do during an implementation. Again, this is not a conclusive list. There's way more, but I pulled those activities out where we have accelerators available and where PLMgpt specifically can help to make those tasks easier, faster, and less involved, I guess. And these are really the accelerators we have available, and we'll look at most of them during this session. So For creating a project plan, we have a template for a evaluation project plan. We have a PLM maturity assessment tool. Then for the defining use cases and requirements, we have a template for use cases, and we have a complete requirement specification. We'll look at that. Then for the demo scripts, there actually PLMgpt can do a tremendous job helping to write demo scripts. We can look at an output of that. That's actually quite powerful. Then to create an RFP, we have an RFP template, and then we can use PLMgpt also to refine and complete that RFP template. That's really powerful too. We can evaluate the RFP responses. There's really two things. We can use the requirement specification, because obviously when we send out an RFP, we would send that out with requirements, and then the requirement specification makes it easier to exactly see how the different systems meet those requirements and how the different systems compare. So we'll see that too. And we can also use PLMgpt, and that actually is also quite a powerful possibility that is available there. And then again, I will show a specific output of how this can be done, or PLMgpt can be utilized. Then to determine benefits and calculate ROI, we have a PLM benefits and ROI calculator to present and prepare the result and recommendation. Again, we can use the requirement specification. It has a very nice visual output that can help executives to see how the different systems meet the requirements. And then once we move into the implementation, again, we have a complete PLM implementation project plan template available. We have a complete OCM plan template available. Then for the optimization for practices and processes, we have best practice process maps available that, again, can just really provide a very, very good foundation of what is best practice in pretty much all PLM-related processes. Then, again, for the refining of use cases and requirements, we have our use case and requirement spec tools available, or accelerators. Then for the solution spec, we have a solution spec template, again, available that covers the most important areas of PLM. Of course, it is a foundation. Again, it's of course not everything, but it is a good foundation. And then to create test and validation scripts and custom training material, we can use PLMgpt. So this just gives a brief overview of what tasks would typically have to be performed during evaluation and implementations, and then what accelerators and tools we have available to support that. Now, what are the benefits of using these accelerators? So I don't want to go through each one of the lines here individually. That I don't think is necessary, but we can clearly see that, and these are from our own experience, what it would usually take in our experience to create, for example, a good project plan, and how long it typically takes us when we're in a project with our project plan template to actually create that project plan, or any one of those tasks, obviously, with the accelerators and tools that we have available. And as you can see, there typically it's about 50 to 60% reduction for each one of those individual tasks, which can in the end amount to quite a bit of effort and cost reduction. So total, if we actually calculate what the effort is to do all these tasks with or without accelerators and these tools, we have really seen that the reduction of effort can be up to 60%, and the cost reduction, if we use just an average rate of a consultant, and yes, this is based on a consulting rate, but when you look at from a company side, typically you would have to pay a consultant for that. If you do this yourself or the consultant uses those tools, then a cost reduction of up to $100,000 is actually possible. And of course, this is for not a small PLM project, but this is for a mid-size or larger PLM project. But the cost reduction is significant. So with that, let's take a look at some of these accelerators. So let's start with our PLM maturity assessment tool. So that is a tool where basically in our PLM framework, we have defined 40 capability areas. And now this maturity assessment tool has for each one of these capability areas maturity levels defined, 5 maturity levels to be specific, that go from basically being completely undefined and unstructured to being completely integrated and best practice. This are the 5 maturity levels. And each maturity level has a description of what this maturity would look like in each one of those capability areas. So, and then there are a whole number of questions also in there that help to guide through this assessment that basically provide guidance really. Okay, so how do you manage documents and so on and so on, and depending on how you answer the question, it helps you to determine what the maturity is. Or you can just read the maturity levels and determine based on that. You can read what the description is and then determine, okay, based on the description, we believe we are maturity level 2 in document management, we might be maturity level 3 in part component management, and we might be maturity level 3 in BOM management, etc. So in all these areas, we have these detailed descriptions, and it allows you now for each one of these capability areas to determine what is the current state and what is the desired state. And then, of course, it graphically then will show you what the current state is, that's in blue. What the desired state is the end of the line on the bottom there. And then the red is really the gap between what is the current state and what is the desired state. And it very quickly shows you where you have the biggest gaps, where you want to be, and what your current maturity is in each one of those areas. And you can see that on the graph on the bottom right there. So that is a very powerful way to very quickly in probably a day or two to determine what is the current maturity and the current capabilities of the tools and processes that you currently have in a company. Again, it's a very, very powerful way to do that relatively quickly and then, with a relatively good accuracy. We use that all the time. This is the tool that we use for our PLM capability maturity assessments. And of course, with the questions that are in there also, that helps then, less experienced people to conduct that assessment themselves. Again, very powerful way to do that. Then the next accelerator we have is a PLM requirement specification. In this PLM requirement specification, again, we use that ourselves for evaluations that we do with clients. We have over 1,200 predefined functional technical requirements defined in that specification, again, in all the 40 capability areas. And it's very easy to basically say, okay, so, and in each one of those, we can say what is the current maturity. We can use that from, or we can take that from the previous assessment tool. What is the priority? How important is that requirement to us? And then we can select the requirements. And then we can send that to the vendors and ask them to answer that. Of course, we can also, before we send it to the vendors, we can add company-specific requirements. That's very easy to do as well. And we can send that as part of an RFI or an RFP to the vendors and ask them to fill that out. And they will fill that out, obviously, and send it back. And then you can compare the different systems with each other. And of course, the different vendors would not see what the other vendor answers. So this will be obviously merged into one document. And then you can easily compare how the different systems meet each one of the requirements. And then it shows you on this radar chart, it will show you the blue highlighted area is what we want. This is the requirement. Excuse me. And then the lines, the colored lines, show how each one of the systems meets each one of the requirements. And you can very, very easily see which system meets the requirement and which system doesn't meet the requirement. Or our needs, I should say. And how well it meets it. So you can very clearly see, that this really meets the requirement, this exceeds the requirement, or this really there's a gap, there's a problem. So this tool, of course, can be used, for an electronic pre-selection of appropriate PLM solutions. So if we send that out as part of an RFI, for example, and we get the answers back, we can say, well, we only want to select the 3 best systems to actually go through an RFP, as opposed to sending it out to 6 or 7 or whatever. Again, it can be added as a questionnaire for software vendors, obviously, during the RFP itself. And then what's really, really important is if you're in a regulated industry, specifically medical device, or if you work with medical device companies, the FDA has a very, very clear guideline, or actually a requirement that for a software validation, you have to have clearly established software requirement specification. And this requirement specification meets exactly that FDA regulation or requirement again, it is clearly defined, that the requirements are clearly defined, and it shows how a system will meet that requirement. So again, it's a very good foundation for a software validation further down during the implementation. So that's about the PLM requirement specification. Then the next step would be to create use cases. So once we have the processes somewhat defined, then we need to define the use cases. Use cases are basically how we want to use the system. So these are different tasks that the system needs to be able to perform. It's very important that this will be defined properly, because the use cases then are a prerequisite, or the basis again for test cases, for training, of course, to define more detailed functional requirements during the design, etc. And our use case document or template really has the most important use cases as a PLM system typically should be able to perform. Again, it's not complete, but it is a very good foundation. So there are predefined use cases and the related requirements for a variety of PLM processes in many of the 40 PLM capability areas. And then use cases can easily, obviously, be modified to meet your needs, or new use cases can be added. That's, of course, very easy to do. And it really significantly reduces the time to create these practical use cases. I mean, see, I know how long it took to create all these use cases, and I wouldn't know why in a company it would take less long to do that. And now it typically takes us a couple of hours to go through the use case and say, well, this is really important for a company. This is not important for us. We don't need that, and so on. So that the effort goes from probably weeks to create these use cases with all the requirements to hours, to just select the ones that are important to a client, or to a company. And again, this, as I said, is a very important prerequisite for PLM evaluations. We can use those use cases in RFPs to send out to the vendors and say, these are the things that our system needs to be able to do. We can use it for demos. Please show us specifically this use case and how to do it. Of course, again, we can use the use case specifically then to ask PLMgpt to create a demo script for it, and we'll see that. And then for the implementation, of course, we can use, or we need to have the use cases too for the solution design and then for the testing again. These are the basis then for the test scripts. So that's about the use cases. Then PLMgpt. So we can use PLMgpt, as I indicated initially, in a variety of ways. But one way that is actually really powerful and pretty amazing when you try it out, is to create demo scripts and test cases. The demo scripts obviously during the evaluation, and the test cases during the implementation. And you see on the right is basically the dialogue between me in this case and PLMgpt. So I asked it to create a demo script for Teamcenter, specifically for Teamcenter, to demonstrate the creation of a new part. And then basically it walks us through, and it basically creates the entire demo script. It's really amazing. This is really the output of PLMgpt. So, okay, a Teamcenter demo script. It creates the objectives. It says, how the preparation, what needs to be in place for the demo script to be successful. And then it goes really step by step. And this is just a small excerpt of that demo script, the first two steps, really. Okay, so now these are the different steps that PLM that the vendor should show. And this it's amazing. This can be provided to the vendor. Please show us exactly this, and the vendor will, of course, go through this and show, and then make it comparable. So for you, it's then easy to see. It's like, okay, so vendor one showed us this, for Teamcenter, obviously, and then now, vendor two will show us that for whatever, another system, etc. But please follow exactly, follow these steps so that we can compare how does it work to create a part in Teamcenter, and how does it work to create the part in whatever 3D Experience or in Windchill. And so the demos become comparable. So that is really an amazing use or an application of PLMgpt for a PLM project. That again, I've done this many times before. Created these demo scripts, and it took days to go through all these different use cases and say, okay, I need for creating a part, I need a demo script, and I need for changing a part, I need one, etc., etc. With PLMgpt, it's 2 minutes probably per test case, per demo case or demo script. It's a tremendous saving. Then we have our RFP template available. Again, it is a very comprehensive and proven, almost ready to go RFP document for PLM systems, also software and implementation services. You can include both, obviously. It has both. You can use it for both. And we use that template all the time for our own projects. So we know it works. We know we get very, very good responses based on it. And again, when you use that, it is structured so that the answers, the RFP responses are structured and comparable. And it's not just, okay, some whatever random response that we have to kind of then go through and somehow extract and find the right information from the RFP response. So that is a very powerful way. And typically, you know, it would take days to create an RFP like that. With the template that we have available, again, it's a few hours. Now, another really amazing use of PLMgpt is actually analyzing RFP responses. That is tremendous. Again, I honestly, when I tried it, I was blown away. So you basically can take the RFP response from the vendor, upload it in PLMgpt, and ask it a question. So, for example, I did that here on the left. I uploaded the document and I said, analyze the attached proposal and tell me what the total cost is of what was offered. And then that's the answer of PLMgpt. The total cost is whatever the amount was here, 2 million and something. And the cost, you know, comprises both time and material and fixed price elements. And then it lists which one it is. And now I can query that even more. And, you know, I could ask it, or, you know, I did, that's just not on here. Okay, show me the different elements of, you know, what are the different time and material elements? Show me what the different fixed price elements are, and the cost of each, etc. And it already says, you know, it tells me that the figures are detailed in the pricing terms section of the proposal. So it's a tremendous way to make the analysis of an RFP very, very quick and efficient, and just very quickly extract the important information out. And again, if you do that for every single RFP, it becomes easily comparable. You can focus on the key elements, and, you know, everything else is good. You of course can read through it, and you should, but you really can very quickly get the key elements out of an RFP without spending hours trying to find it in a document. It really just took, well, a minute. And then I asked further. I said, okay, so what is the high level scope that is offered in this RFP? And that, of course, PLMgpt is smart enough that I didn't have to upload it again. This was just a follow-up question. So what is the high level scope that is offered? So I knew it was referred to the previous RFP document. And then it tells me, and of course, this is just a small excerpt of it. So number one was a sandbox startup, then a system startup, etc. So there were, you know, probably, I don't know, 20 points in here of elements that were included in this RFP. But it just goes to show that it really makes evaluating an RFP or analyzing an RFP response very, very efficient and very quick. So that's one amazing, in my opinion, way to use PLMgpt that can save tremendous amount of time. The next accelerator that we have available is a PLM benefits and ROI calculator. It obviously assists in determining actual real world quantitative and qualitative benefits of PLM based on projects that we have worked on. So, you know, we obviously determine what are areas where companies really save money. And then it helps to calculate what are those specifically the quantitative benefits. Of course, the qualitative usually cannot be specifically calculated, but they're still their benefits. It's just hard to calculate. And then, you know, of course, it helps to justify the initial investment in PLM or an upgrade. You can calculate the actual return of investment, or it does calculate the return of investment based on, you have to feed it in, obviously, the cost that you would typically get out of an RFP, plus then the benefits that you calculated, and then it gives you an ROI, or the net present value of an investment in PLM. And again, it's a really great foundation to develop a realistic business case for PLM, and obviously helps to justify that investment to the CFO or an accountant. because they're real benefits. They're based on experience. They're based on real world companies, and of course, you know, you have to get the numbers. So that's how you can use the PLM benefits and ROI calculator, a very efficient way to do an accurate way to calculate benefits and calculate an ROI. Then the project plan template, as I said, we have a project plan template both for the evaluation as well as for the implementation. They're the complete project plans. They're very detailed. I'm showing here on the left-hand side, it just for one phase, that the higher level tasks. Again, very detailed. All you have to do is basically enter resource names and possibly, you know, adjust some durations of what is realistic for you. But the prerequisites are already there. The dependencies are in there. Everything is in there. So if you change the length of one activity, then it automatically, you know, pushes and calculates everything else based on those dependencies that are defined. So it's really ready to use. It's very easy to use, and it provides a great foundation again for planning a project. It follows our rapid results methodology, which is kind of, you know, I guess graphically shown a little bit on the right. It basically is a combination of waterfall for the initial phases, for mobilization and defining the solution, and then it's agile during the design, build, test, and deploy. And then once we go live, obviously, then the support again that comes afterwards again. So it is really our rapid results methodology is a combination, what we believe, that the best of both worlds of waterfall and agile. And talk another time about what exactly the characteristics are of this rapid results methodology and the benefits. And of course, it really significantly reduces the time to plan a project, and increases also the probability of a successful project. Reason for that is that when you look through this project plan, you'll find there's hundreds of tasks, so probably maybe 1,000 tasks in there. And because this is really based on real life projects that we've done, you know, all the really important tasks and their dependencies are captured in there. And even a good project manager, without having that, the likelihood is that they will forget a few tasks. If they only forget, you know, 1%, well, they already forgot 10 tasks. And that just reduces, or, you know, that obviously creates problems. If something important is forgotten, then it pushes out the go live, etc. So we already have a delay, but we have additional cost. Using these project plan templates, it just really makes it less likely that something gets forgotten. So this is how you can use our project plan templates. Then we have very similar to that, an OCM plan template. Again, it's a complete OCM plan for PLM implementations with all the different topics that need to be covered, all the communications that we recommend. Again, it's based on obviously projects that we actually have done. So this is not just some theoretical example, but this is an actual real OCM plan that we have used for PLM implementations. It's really ready to use. All you have to do is you really have to basically add who the content creator is, you know, when you want it to be created, who needs to approve the content, when is it going to be distributed, to whom will it be distributed. Those, of course, those are things that you still have to determine and put in here. But the actual what needs to be done and what are the contents of each one of these communications and activities, that is already basically defined. So again, this takes hours and days probably off, you know, if you have to create that from scratch. Then process maps, that of course is also a very important part of a PLM implementation. Our process maps are really complete for basically all important PLM processes. So within each stage, the processes that need to be performed, then the change for each stage, and then also creation and release, or the release from one phase to the next. All these processes are defined. It's a best practice framework. It probably doesn't fit 100% whatever every company needs, but it is a good basis. And it is a best practice framework for change, for creation, for release, for the whole stage gate process, for product development or project delivery. And again, it's a great foundation that significantly reduces the time to define and optimize processes, and it ensures that your company then uses best-in-class processes. Again, probably needs to be slightly adopted and modified to meet your specific company's needs, but it's better to start with something good and modify it and make it a little bit better than start from nothing. All right, so that's really already it. That was an overview of the different accelerators and tools, and of course PLMgpt that we currently have available for you. They can really be used for many important tasks that need to be performed during PLM evaluations and implementations. They do significantly reduce the time, effort, and cost of each one of those tasks, and of course make the tasks easier because you don't start from scratch. Savings of good $100,000 are possible when you really fully utilize these tools. And then some of these accelerators and PLMgpt can be accessed at plmadvisors.com/tools. Some accelerators are not there yet, but you can contact me if you're interested in them. If you don't find some on PLM Advisors right now on our website, then you can contact me and I can provide those accelerators to you. Yeah, that's really it. With that, I just want to open it up for questions. If you do have a question, you are currently on mute. You will have to unmute yourself. You should be able to do that on the bottom of your screen. And yeah, please go ahead.
This is Jan. About the GPT or the PLMgpt, obviously that's some sort of version of the ChatGPT, kind of like a smaller version, right? Is that? Go ahead.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, is that my question was? Is it somehow restricted or limited, or somehow from the outside? And the reason I'm asking is that because when you said you kind of download the file for the RFP.
Yeah.
And then get the information out of it, and then if it's the open source, then obviously it gets public, or it gets as a public information everywhere.
Yeah.
So is that somehow taken care of?
Well, yes and no. So number one, to your first question, yes. So PLMgpt is based on GPT-4. It is a custom GPT based on GPT-4, and it is not reduced, actually. I mean, it is the full GPT-4 that is publicly available. Plus, we've trained it with specific PLM knowledge, specific PLM, tools and documents and information and everything. It's specifically trained for PLM, so it actually is more capable than the public, the generic ChatGPT or GPT-4. Again, specifically in the area of PLM, of course. So that's to your first question. The second question is, yes, it is public. However, when you use, say, for example, when you upload a document, I cannot query the document because I mean, I would have to specifically know, this document that was uploaded at this point. I don't know that. So I don't have visibility what documents you upload, or, person X doesn't have visibility what document person Y uploads. They don't know that. But of course, PLMgpt now knows what is in that document. So it has the information now of that RFP. Again, it would be very hard to query that for person Y because they don't know that person X uploaded that document. But if someone says, what is the average of all RFPs that were ever uploaded here? What is the average cost? Then ChatGPT could probably tell you, or PLMgpt could probably tell you that. So it is, again, absolutely clearly, it's public information. It is not restricted in that sense that it's only accessible to you. So PLMgpt is aware of all the information that is uploaded, but it is difficult for person Y to query what person X uploads specifically.
I understand that part. So, okay, you answered my question perfectly. What I was after.
Okay, great.
Unless somebody else has a question, I have another question. When you put there was the two parts in one of the first slides. There was the preparation and the implementation. There were steps, and with the accelerators on the right hand side. So accelerator, call it, this one, yes. So the evaluation and the implementation. Are these steps somehow kind of serial, or they can be or also in parallel, or in multiple flows created? I mean,
I mean, there is some logical sequence, but that doesn't mean that everything has to be done serially. So, typically you would start with a project plan, right? And then you would first determine what your current practices and processes and tools look like. And then once you know what your current practices are like, then you will probably say, okay, so based on our current practices and processes, these are the things that we know a new system will have to be able to do. So that would basically, determine what the use cases are. And then from the use cases, you typically define the requirements. And then once you have the use cases and requirements, you can create the demo scripts. And once you have the demo scripts and the use cases and requirements, you can create the RFP, because you obviously, as part of the RFP, you want to send out the use cases and requirements and demo scripts to the vendors. And then once you get the RFP, you can evaluate it, and then you can determine what the benefits and the ROI is. And then you present it to the steering committee or the executives, whatever. So that sequence is logical, but you can certainly start determining the benefits before you create an RFP. That there's nothing preventing you from determining the benefits. However, to calculate the ROI, you obviously need to have the cost. So you need to have the RFP responses, or you can put in an estimate, of course, but in order to make it accurate, you would have to know what the implementation of the software costs, right?
Yes, I fully understand. Yeah, it makes sense what you just said, that that's a kind of general sequence of things. Obviously, you cannot present something to the management as a step 2 because you have nothing you found out yet.
Exactly.
I understand that. And that's basically what am I asking is, because when you go to the next slide, there's this kind of like the evaluation of the days. So basically, some of these days, they could be even kind of overlapping each other, right? So
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is kind of like really just an estimate over time, how long this task in general would take. but it doesn't say it has to be done only when create RFP will finish, then only evaluate RFP start.
Correct.
Because okay.
Yeah,
Okay, so there is
absolutely.
some overlap.
Absolutely, there's some overlap, and the other thing that I also want to I guess point out is the whole creating or the project planning probably isn't done in 1 to 2 days. This may take longer, but the task of creating the project plan, if you just focus on the project plan, would probably take about 1 to 2 days. The planning may take longer, but creating the project plan will probably take 1 to 2 days. So
this is very good point, because that's, if you say 1 to 2 days, so it would be, let's say, 8 to 16 working hours, but it doesn't mean that it's Monday morning until Tuesday afternoon, because you have to do other things. So it might take, even though it's a 16 hours, but it can take a 5-day, because within the week you have to do other things as well. Okay.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what I want to get at. Yes, this is actual effort, not lapse time. Correct.
Okay. Because it could be misleading when somebody is looking at it, it's like, oh yeah, we will have it in 108 days done, and then it's like, yeah, not really.
No, exactly. No, absolutely not. This is not what this slide says at all. That no, you cannot do an evaluation and implementation in 108 days. No, this is really just the actual effort, hours or days it takes, man days, maybe I should have even said, to, for example, create an RFP would typically take about 3 to 5 days. I mean, without the accelerator. But sending the RFP out then and waiting for that takes probably 3 weeks, right? To get the responses back, to let the vendors answer that probably takes 3 weeks. So that the lapse time is way longer for an RFP than 3 to 5 days.
Okay, good. Again, I have another question if nobody else is asking. If you slide down a little bit, there was another slide which was basically related to the, I couldn't read this. This would be really interesting to see, but okay, not now. When we go to, there was something with the pharma. Yeah, this one, with the validation, software validation. I was lucky enough to, in the last about 7 years, I was doing a software validation for pharma type of business. It was a different software. It was not PLM, but it was completely different. But I understand, or I would assume, the concept of validation is similar. No matter what the software does, if it's for pharma business or pharma industry, you have to have the validation in place.
Correct.
I never thought of it this way. And then, this is so. Have you ever seen, or have you ever done the kind of like the pharma validation or the CSV validation of PLM software already?
I've not done it in pharma, but I've done it many times in medical device. Yes, and I know I would say it probably is very similar. Pharma, not sure. Well, it depends, I guess, what product it is. I mean, if we're talking, drugs pharma, then it would also fall under the FDA requirements, right? If we're talking, paints, for example, or not human use pharmaceutical products, then or chemical or whatever, then it would probably not fall under the FDA requirements.
I did the FDA because we were doing a warehousing, so storage and basically handling of the medical products or the pharma products. I saw that fell under FDA, and for the US or for the North American market, and then for Europe was the European directive, which is similar to FDA, or they kind of like complement each other. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that is really, I mean, that's really a key, how should I say, that's a key point that many companies initially don't think about, and then they actually get to the validation, and during the validation they say, okay, so what exactly are the requirements that that the software needs to be able to meet, and how does it meet it? And then they're like, oh, well, we we don't really know. And
Yeah.
then they start to, obviously they struggle to then create the requirements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's also, I mean, it is kind of when people don't understand what it is. It is scary that, oh, that's huge, that's big, and
It
it's long.
is.
Yes, it is, but it is true. But it's not a rocket science. It's kind of like it makes sense. All of it is sequential, but it does present a challenge from a time and efforts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, again, it's two of us only. Yeah, I mean, I can talk about these things for a longer time. I mean, we are running out of time already. Um, are you going to share this the presentation and
Yeah, I will send the presentation out to everyone who attended. I'll do that. And then I will also put it on our website.
Mhm.
And I also recorded the session, so I'll also upload the recording. So
Great.
those folks that attended will get it, and everybody else, they will probably have to give their information
Okay.
to access it.
Oh, this is brilliant. Well, thank you very much for, Andreas, for sharing this information. I'm quite fascinated with that. It's one of these, like, the more you know, the more you learn, the more you realize how much you don't know yet. So
Yes,
it is brilliant information. So yeah,
great.
thank you
Well,
very much again.
I'm glad that that you found it helpful. That's awesome. That obviously is always the goal of my presentations and sessions here. So thanks for the feedback. That was excellent, and also thanks for your questions. Those were great too, and thanks for attending, of course.